Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Radio Horror YouTube channel. Tonight we are going to talk about one of the most awful films of 2020, which, in a year that pretty much Hollywood came to a crashing halt in March, with the exception of, a Kevin Bacon movie that nobody saw and the excellent return of Bill and Ted, 2020 has had a string of really good independent movies and a continued string of really bad independent horror movies. And one of them is by a famous musician. And Katie, the blonde in front of here, is here to talk to us about Verotika.
Yes, Freaks and Fiends. This is the blonde in front of here to talk to you about Verotika. Written, directed, produced, edited, I believe, scored by Glen Danzig, and I know he does a number of other things. I bear with me that I miss who starred in it, but it is an anthology film, and I was actually one of the first people to see this film in 2019 when it premiered.
You poor thing.
World premiere.
You poor thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was getting into at that time, but I and the around 800 other people that were at Music Box Theater for Cinepocalypse. It was the opening night film. It was hot off the presses, meaning they were still working on it when it arrived at the theater. It was an hour late for the show, and it was still being worked on. And he came in bigger than life. It was a beyond packed house. Everybody was excited. He talked about his love of horror, his love of Bava and Giallo films. He's always been a big horror fan. Everyone who was there, these are his people. He's very happy that we get to see it. He spent a lot of time on this. This was his baby. I mean, he put the money in. He didn't really have studio money in. I mean, he had producers, but, this was his thing. And it's an independent film. And, for someone who I know his name, I'm not necessarily I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the music. Not that I don't like the music, but it's not like I've gone out to see it. But, I mean, it's nice to hear someone who is relatively famous, talk about the fact that they had a struggle making a film, just like anyone else who does an independent film. This is what they had to do. And, they worked on this, and, I was open to watching the film. And the horror hostess, when you first see it, very enjoyable. I liked her vibe. I liked her charisma. I thought that definitely had a giallo vibe to it. I'm getting it. I'm getting into it. And then it just quickly went downhill. Now, it takes a lot, and I feel like it's almost a compliment that you can have a film that has so much nudity in it that it actually becomes boring. And there were so many boobs that, I don't want to say there's so many boobs, but it just,
there were a ton of boobs because a lot of these actresses were porn stars.
Yeah, but it says a lot when you have this much nudity and it's this unsexy. And yet it passed the Bechdel. Passed the Bechdel test, where you can have two women having a conversation in a film where they say their names during the conversation and they don't mention, or the conversation isn't about a man. That blew my mind. In fact, I've talked to many critics about that, and they actually had to ponder that, and they're like, my God, you're right. I'm like, I know. It's very sad, but it's 3 vignettes. I don't want to say each one gets worse from the first one, but the third one's pretty bad. I know the third one is kind of doing this Countess Bathory mixed with Red Sonja kind of vibe to it. And I get things that he was going for in it. I really do. In fact, when he was doing the Q&A, he talked about a lot of the stuff that he was going for. And I just wanted to be like, we get that. It was pretty obvious what you were trying to do. What would have been better if you would have done this, and it would have been it would have sped it along. It is a 90-minute film, and you feel that all those 90 minutes that you are there.
Yeah.
God bless him. He came out for the Q&A afterwards. It was only there was only a moderator. There was no questions by the audience. But when you're done, you're kind of, at least look, when I was, like I said, I was I didn't know what to expect. I'm going in blind. All I knew was Danzig. It was the opening night film. I'm excited. It's a world premiere. And basically, yeah, it definitely is the room of horror anthologies. Went missing, things would break, and it look again. Independent horror is hard to do. You have to have people that you trust because usually it's not a lot of money. You're doing this because you love it. You're doing this because you love the people involved with it and who are making it. This is a guy who has a name. People know who Glenn Danzig is. And when he was talking about people not showing up for work for him, and I was like, who is not showing up to work on a film that he's involved with? I mean,
Because I
that
read
says a
this.
lot.
They said that
I mean,
they
it
they
not says a lot that it's a bad thing. It just says a lot that, look, even the famous people have a hard time making an independent film. And, he fought the studio on a couple of things that they wanted a love interest on a certain thing. And he was like, no, I didn't want that. I wanted it to be all about the female. It's like, good for you, Glenn. Thank you so much.
I
I
know some
appreciate
people.
that.
I know
I
some
really
people who
appreciate
turned down this movie,
Huh?
and I said I know some people who turned down this movie.
That's probably definitely the best. I think that I mean, look, if it's on Shutter, so I mean, and yes, people watch it, people complain about it. It is an experience. I mean, I feel like this is another The Room. This was made to midnight horror fans, like going into the theaters and watching this, like as a The Room kind of cult status, Rocky Horror Picture Show, that kind of thing. I mean, it's just something to behold. I know I will always cherish that ticket and my experience. I'm glad I was able to sneak some video while I could because he had like a 6'6" bodyguard who was not allowing any pictures or video or anything while the Q&A was going on. Silly me, I didn't know how to use my phone, so the video just happened. Whoops. But look, I mean, I may not like the film. I may not enjoy the film. I may not agree that it's getting so much attention when there's so many independent films that people have made that are so much better. But I will always cherish that experience with all of my friends that I got to be there and be that person. It's like when Obama won the president. It's like I was there. I was there. I was one of those 800 people that were there.
When you have your cast filled with people who really have no acting ability whatsoever, that is going to be one of your biggest downfalls. The movie's script could still be bad if the performances were that great. But when you have cast members, and I'm not going to name names so it doesn't sound like I'm slut-shaming or in any way, but when you have actresses that are in films like My Sexy Boss Likes It Anal Parts 1 and 2 and Gang Bang Cream Pie in My Ass, that's not gonna make you a great movie, okay? It's going to be ripped apart by the critics. So unless you're like going out of your way just to make the most horrendous piece of crap on the planet with people who have no acting abilities whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, other than to have sex and play I'm the hot cheerleader or hot stepmom who's gonna have sex with my stepson or something like that, you're gonna set yourself up for disaster. And you're right, too many breasts in a movie makes it just an absolute boring film, and this movie over pumped that up. Now if the movie was an absolute music video love fest to everything he's done, I could probably appreciate it more. I saw the poster artwork and I was blown away by the artwork on the poster, but let me tell you, the poster does nothing to show you how anything about the movie whatsoever. It's kind of like those movies in the 80s where you saw great artwork on a poster, but when you watched the movie, you were like, good God, this is garbage. I don't have anything really nice I want to say about this movie. I like Glen Danzig's music sometimes. His music has not always been great, and especially as of late. I'm a bigger fan of the Misfits than anything else. But watch this at your own risk, people. This is a terrible fucking movie.
If you want to laugh, Definitely the first episode has some pretty hilarious things going on with it, where a woman has breasts. I mean, that seems, but she has eyeballs on her
No.
breast for some reason that is not explained. And then when those eyeball boobs cry, a tear falls on a albino spider, and that spider turns into a man who likes to bang away chicks and kills them when this chick falls asleep, the woman with the eyeball breasts. The thing I didn't get about that too is like why she is so sleepy all the time. She then becomes like Miss Narcoleptic France, and it's like too bad for all the hookers in Paris or wherever it is, because then Spider Dildo guy is like banging away and killing people 24/7. But it is hilarious because it just doesn't make any sense. Not to, and I know you're talking about there's not a lot of people who have experience acting on this. Let's make sure that the XY chromosomes aren't getting any Oscars on this either, Chris. Let's make note of that. The second vignette, those are horrible performances. I mean, I will say this, Danzig does, most of the film is female led, so I've got that for him. But my God, in the first one, you've got a bunch of dumbass guys in a movie theater that act so stupid that I'm like, you guys are even worse than the woman with the eyeball tits, which I mean, it's still to this day I don't understand what that's all about. Maybe she lived next to a nuclear power plant. I don't know.
That's like
it was really funny.
That's like an anime character in like Demon City who has what is it called? Vagina dentata.
Yeah, well, that at
Teeth in
least
the
can
vagina.
do something. I mean, unless the eyeballs are like, I mean, she was dating a guy who then lifts up her shirt and checks them out, which I mean, I don't know what their dating life was like. Maybe it's the third date and this is what happens, but I mean, there's just so many things about the film that you just can't unsee, and that does say a lot. But yeah, I mean, would I pay money to see this again, or I don't know if it was like a sing along kind of thing where people could talk and people could do things, so we could all enjoy the misery and just laugh at all the stuff. But other than that, I mean, it's on Shudder. They made their money's worth. Go support independent films, people. There are people who are really trying to make some stuff out there. Go support those films. And if you wanna laugh with some people and that are in your bubble, have them all watch Verotika on a Zoom, and just you guys are going to be, your jaws are going to be on the ground. I will say that.
Check out the rest of the videos here on the Radio of Horror YouTube channel. Check out Katie's reviews on The Blonde in Front of Fear. And we'll be back in a couple weeks or a few weeks for another exciting, probably independent horror movie review, as there's nothing really playing in theaters right now, unless something comes straight to streaming that we're going to watch that was in theaters on the Radio of Horror YouTube channel with The Blonde in Front of Fear. Good night, everybody.
Do you love what you hear in the podcast? Please go to Buy a Cup of Coffee. The Radio of Horror link is in the show notes, or it's on top of the Twitter page. Or you can just go to buymeacupofcoffee.com/Radio of Horror. And you can help support Goth Girl Horror and the other podcasts here on the Radio of Horror Network. Donations go towards cloud service and new equipment. Thank you.